So, usually when someone asks you a question about, like, a factual topic, there's this expectation of immediate precision.
Right. It's almost like a reflex.
Exactly. It's a reflex. Like someone asks, what time is it? And you just look at your watch and say, oh, it's 2 o'clock.
Yeah, or they ask what color the sky is, and you just immediately say blue.
Right. Because facts don't really require any social calculus. You're simply retrieving a piece of data from, like, a filing cabinet in your brain.
Totally. There's zero emotional weight attached to the answer.
None at all. And more importantly, there's no threat of judgment. You aren't being evaluated on your answer to what time it is.
Right. Nobody's judging your character based on the time of day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, you step into a social situation, like a networking event or a party or even a new classroom.
Oh, yeah. The high-stakes zones.
Right. And someone looks at you, they smile, and they ask literally the most common, seemingly simple question in the entire world.
Tell me about yourself.
Yes, tell me about yourself. And suddenly, boom, that clean, factual reflex, it is completely broken. We're suddenly looking at this psychological landscape that is honestly just terrifying.
It really is. I mean, it is the absolute definition of a conversational trapdoor.
A trapdoor. That is such a good way to put it.
Because you think you're standing on solid ground, right? You think you're just engaging in a really basic social pleasantry, and suddenly, whoosh, you're falling.
You're just free falling.
Yeah. The moment someone says, tell me about yourself, you're no longer retrieving data. You are literally curating an identity on the spot.
Which is exactly why today we are doing a deep dive into an incredibly fascinating dialogue between two speakers, Chloe and Alex.
Right, from that English language learning show.
Exactly. We're looking at their transcript because we're going to extract the exact conversational lifelines they use to survive this trapdoor.
And the psychological goldmine they uncover in this dialogue, it applies really broadly. But our mission today is intensely specific for you, the listener.
Extremely specific.
Yeah. The entire goal of this deep dive is to extract the core vocabulary and those simple, highly effective sentence structures from Chloe and Alex's conversation.
So you can actually use them.
Exactly. We are going to show you exactly how to imitate the 4 specific steps they discuss so that you can write your own personal, bulletproof self-introduction.
And, we aren't just going to give you the words and say good luck. We are going to show you how to physically wire those words into your brain.
That's the most important part, honestly.
It really is. We're going to explore the critical value of a very specific practice technique. It involves dedicating exactly 15 minutes to reading your introduction aloud at a steady medium pace.
To build that unshakable speaking confidence.
Right. So let's unpack this central conflict they introduce right at the very beginning of their conversation. The dreaded phrase, tell me about yourself.
The one that makes everyone freeze.
Literally everyone. Chloe and Alex talk about how this phrase makes even native speakers completely freeze up. Hearing this question is it's like being a deer caught in the headlights.
Oh, 100%.
Suddenly your brain just stops working. All the lights are on, but nobody's home. You literally forget your own name.
You do.
So why does a question so fundamentally simple feel like climbing a massive vertical mountain, especially when you're trying to do it in a new language?
Well, to understand that, we actually have to look at the mechanics of what is happening in your brain during that exact moment.
Okay, lay it on me.
Because it's not just a vague feeling of being overwhelmed. It's a measurable physiological event. When you are asked to summarize your entire existence on the spot, your brain experiences a sudden, massive spike in cognitive demand.
Like a system overload.
Exactly. You are hit with this flood of cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
Yeah.
Because in evolutionary terms, your brain interprets the sudden, focused attention of a stranger as a potential social threat.
Wow. So the brain is like, danger. Danger.
Yes, the amygdala, the fear center of your brain, it just lights up.
So wait, we are literally experiencing a mild fight or flight response just because someone asked who we are.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. And when the amygdala takes over, it physically restricts access to the prefrontal cortex.
And the prefrontal cortex does what exactly?
That is the part of your brain responsible for complex thought, logic, and this is crucial for you, if you are an English learner lexical retrieval.
Pulling words out of the dictionary in your head.
Precisely. It's the mechanism of finding your vocabulary. So in that moment, you aren't just trying to figure out what to say.
Right, you're calculating the social context.
Exactly. You're calculating context, you're gauging the other person's expectations, and you're trying to translate all of that into foreign vocabulary and grammar in real time.
All while your brain is actively chemically restricting your ability to think clearly.
Right. You're fighting your own biology.
It's like, I don't know, it's like trying to juggle 3 chainsaws while doing long division in your head.
That is an amazing visual and so accurate.
Because the physical act of standing there takes up the motor cortex, right? The stranger's unexpected greeting hijacks the threat detection center.
Yep.
And your poor language center is just left with an operational budget of 0. So your brain just completely stalls out.
It stalls out completely.
Yeah.
And the absolute genius of the source material today is that it doesn't just give you that standard useless advice to calm down.
Oh, I hate when people just say, calm down. It never works.
Never. Instead, it takes this massive, overwhelming physiological mountain and it systematically dismantles it. It provides 4 highly manageable, incredibly practical steps.
And it shifts the focus entirely.
It really does. It takes the focus completely away from trying to use perfect, complex grammar, and it shifts the objective entirely towards simple human connection and cognitive relief.
Cognitive relief. I love that. Okay, so let's look at the first lifeline they throw us. Step 1. You are in the trapdoor. The cortisol is spiking.
Your brain is panicking.
Right. Step 1 of their framework is simply stating your name and where you live, or where you're from. The core sentence structure they provide is the absolute bedrock of communication.
My name is blank and I am from blank.
Exactly. My name is Alex and I am from London.
It really needs to be that basic. When you are in that deer in the headlights moment, you desperately need a cognitive safety net.
Right.
My name is Alex and I am from London. It is factually correct, it is grammatically sound, and most importantly, it requires almost 0 cognitive effort to produce.
You're just giving your hijacked brain a tiny task.
Exactly. You're giving your prefrontal cortex a tiny, manageable task so it can start rebooting its systems.
But I really love how Chloe points out in the dialogue that once you have that basic structure, you can easily elevate it to sound just a bit more natural.
Oh, the conversational tweak.
Yeah. Without adding too much complexity to that cognitive load, she suggests this framework. I was born in blank, but now I live in blank.
Right.
So, for example, you would say, I was born in London, but now I live in sunny Spain.
That slight adjustment does something incredibly powerful in a social dynamic. It actually introduces a tiny bit of narrative.
Like a mini story.
Exactly. It gives the listener a timeline. You aren't just a static object from London anymore. You are a person with a history who has made a transition.
You've moved. You've experienced things.
Right. It adds color, as Alex notes in the transcript, without requiring you to dive deep into your mental dictionary and pull out advanced vocabulary. It builds a bridge from a pure fact to a potential story.
Speaking of stories, Alex shares an anecdote in this part of the conversation that is just universally hilarious.
Oh, this story's the best.
It perfectly illustrates the absolute danger of that cognitive overload we were just talking about. The juggling chainsaws while doing long division scenario.
The infamous grocery bag incident.
Yes. Okay, so Alex recounts the story from like a month prior. He's walking into his apartment building, and he's carrying 3 massive, incredibly heavy bags of groceries.
Just struggling.
Oh, he's physically sweating, he's straining, his arms are literally shaking. And just then, this gentleman opens the inner door for him, smiles warmly, and says, "Hi, I'm Mark. I just moved into apartment 4B.
Which is, a perfectly polite, standard neighborhood introduction.
Very normal, the kind of thing that happens a million times a day.
Right.
But Alex is caught entirely off guard. He's physically struggling with the bags. He's suddenly put on the spot socially, and in his sheer panic, he looks at the new neighbor and accidentally introduces himself by saying,
Oh, no.
he says, "Hi, I am Heavy, and I live in the kitchen."
I am Heavy, and I live in the kitchen. It's just a spectacular linguistic collision.
I honestly couldn't stop laughing when I read that. I mean, I am heavy.
It's so good.
But, it brings up a really deep psychological question about the mechanics of language under stress.
It really does.
Like, how does our brain completely misfire like that? How do we mix up our immediate, temporary, physical sensations, like being heavy, carrying heavy things, with our actual permanent human identity when we're put on the spot?
It's wild.
Does stress literally short-circuit the way we organize reality?
Well, if we look at how working memory functions, the answer is undeniably yes. What Alex experienced there is a perfect storm of cognitive overload.
Okay, break that down for me.
So your brain has a very limited amount of working memory. Think of it as the RAM in a computer. It can only hold and process a few pieces of active information at any given millisecond.
Right, it's not an infinite hard drive.
Exactly. So in that exact moment, Alex's working memory was 100% occupied by the physical exertion of holding the bags.
Plus the spatial awareness of navigating a heavy door.
Yes. And then add on the sudden, unexpected social requirement to process a stranger's greeting.
His brain's RAM was completely maxed out.
Utterly maxed out. There was no space left to actually formulate a proper sentence. So when his brain scrambled to formulate a response to, "Hi, I'm Mark," it didn't have the processing power to access his long-term memory where his name and identity are stored.
Wow. It just couldn't reach that file.
Nope. Instead, it simply grabbed whatever concepts were currently sitting at the very top of his active consciousness.
Which were the bags and his destination?
Exactly. The intense physical sensation of heaviness in his arms and his ultimate desperate destination, the kitchen counter where he could drop the bags.
So the brain essentially bypassed the identity and location filters entirely.
Completely bypassed them. It just outputted the most urgent data points currently in the system. I am heavy, kitchen.
That is unbelievable. It's like the brain's autocorrect went completely rogue because it was just trying to save him from dropping the milk.
That is a very accurate way to frame it. His brain prioritized physical survival, holding the heavy bags over social grace.
Which makes sense evolutionarily, I guess.
It does. But what's really important here, and what the source material brilliantly highlights for anyone learning a language, isn't the mistake itself.
Because everyone makes mistakes.
Right, everyone messes up. The true takeaway here is the recovery mechanism.
Ah, yes. Because Mark, the new neighbor, is obviously standing there looking incredibly confused as to why a grown human being is identifying as a heavy kitchen appliance.
Right, and how does Alex fix it? He actually physically drops the bags to the floor.
He just puts them down.
Yes. By doing this, he literally removes the physical cognitive load. The RAM is instantly freed up.
Wow, that's immediate relief.
And then he laughs, which releases endorphins and lowers that cortisol spike we talked about, diffusing the social tension. And then, and this is key, he reverts immediately to the most basic, simple sentence structure available.
My name is Alex. I live in apartment 5B.
Exactly. He goes right back to the cognitive safety net.
He does. And I feel like this is the core lesson for you, the listener. When things go wrong, when you panic, when you mix up your words.
Because you will.
Right, because you will. You don't need to craft a long, beautiful, poetic apology to recover. Simplicity is your absolute best friend.
100%. My name is, I live in the fit.
It hits the reset button on a conversation and gets you back on solid, predictable ground.
It really proves that you don't need flawless execution to survive a social interaction. You just need to know how to reset.
Okay, so you've safely stated your name without calling yourself a refrigerator. You've established your basic existence. But, existing isn't enough to sustain a conversation.
Unfortunately not.
Right. The human brain immediately craves context. The other person is subconsciously asking, what is this person's utility? How do they spend their days? Where do they fit into the social fabric?
The inevitable next question.
And this is where we run into the second massive conversational trapdoor. Trying to sound entirely too smart about what you do for a living.
Oh, this is a big one. After establishing who and where, the social expectation naturally flows to what? What is your function?
Which usually translates to discussing your job or your studies.
Right. And again, the core information here relies on incredibly beginner-friendly foundational structures. Things like, I'm a blank, or I work in a blank, or I'm a blank student.
Keep it simple.
Very simple. For example, I am a manager, I work in a hospital, or I am a university student.
It seems almost insultingly simple, doesn't it? Like, is that really enough?
It feels that way, but it is.
Because Chloe provides an explicit, very necessary warning against the temptation to complicate this step. She warns against what she calls the jargon trap.
The jargon trap. It's one of the most common mistakes professionals make, honestly, whether they are speaking their native language or a second language.
She specifically uses a fantastic example of what not to say. She tells the audience, do not introduce yourself by saying, I maximize corporate synergy in the digital marketing ecosystem.
Oh my goodness, it's just a wall of noise.
It really is. And I feel like I've met that guy at a dozen networking events.
We all have.
It's like a verbal smokescreen. It sounds incredibly important. It uses very large words, but it actually tells me absolutely nothing about what that person actually does on a Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.
Right. It's completely devoid of tangible meaning.
Exactly. It's highly alienating. Alex's reaction to the text is perfect. He just laughs and admits he doesn't even know what that means.
Which is how everyone feels when they hear that stuff.
Yeah, it's so true. The transcript advises embracing simple clarity instead. Rather than the corporate synergy line, just say, I work in marketing. I create online ads.
So much better.
Right. Or, as Alex practices in the dialogue, I work as an English podcast host, and I also teach music online.
It's infinitely more digestible. But I really want to dive deep into the psychology of this because I think a lot of learners, especially ambitious professionals, struggle with this concept.
Oh, absolutely.
Aren't people often terrified that they will be judged if their vocabulary sounds too basic?
Yes, that fear is huge.
If you are a highly educated professional, say you're an engineer or a financial analyst learning English, isn't there a deep fear that using simple language makes you sound less intelligent?
You want to sound impressive, so you reach for the biggest words you can find.
Exactly. You want to convey your status. But this is a profound misunderstanding of how human psychology and likability actually work.
Okay, tell me more about that.
We often confuse complexity with competence. We think that if we use complicated words, people will assume we have a complicated, brilliant mind.
Wait.
But let's break down the psychology of the jargon trap. Why do people use jargon in the first place? It is almost always a defense mechanism.
Really? A defense mechanism?
Yes. It is an attempt to signal high social status and erect a barrier between the speaker and the listener. It essentially says, I belong to an exclusive club that understands these words, and you don't.
Oh, wow. It's a power play, even if it's an unintentional one.
Exactly. Now put yourself in the shoes of the listener. When a listener hears jargon, their brain has to suddenly burn a massive amount of cognitive calories to decode the words.
They're doing mental gymnastics.
Right. They have to stop listening to the flow of the conversation and try to translate your corporate synergy into something that makes actual sense. This creates a state of cognitive strain.
Their brain has to work way too hard just to understand your basic introduction.
And here is the absolute secret to human interaction. If you make someone's brain work too hard during an introduction, they will subconsciously associate you with exhaustion.
Ouch. That's not the first impression you want.
No, they won't think you are smart. They will just know that talking to you feels difficult.
That makes so much sense.
Conversely, simple language creates what psychologists call cognitive ease. When information is easy to process, the brain feels relaxed.
Ah, cognitive ease.
And the brain naturally associates that feeling of relaxation with likability and trustworthiness. When you use simple, confident English, you make the interaction effortless for the listener. Cognitive ease breeds instant likability.
That is absolutely fascinating. So, by trying to sound impressive, you're actually making yourself less likable.
Exactly.
And you're being a bad host in the conversation, essentially.
Yeah.
You're making them uncomfortable.
Yeah, putting them to work.
Right. So simple English isn't a sign of weakness. It is a sign of confidence. It shows you don't need to hide behind big words.
Precisely. Chloe points out in the transcript that people respect honesty, and it's very natural.
Yeah.
The goal of an introduction isn't to verbally hand someone your resume and demand they be awed by it. The goal is to provide clear, accessible information that acts as a bridge to keep the conversation flowing.
And speaking of honesty, I really appreciate that the source material navigates non-traditional roles so gracefully.
Oh, yes.
It's an incredibly inclusive approach. It explicitly addresses what to say if you aren't currently in the traditional 9-to-5 workforce.
This is such a crucial detail because society puts a massive, often unfair amount of pressure on the what you do question.
It really does. It defines us, unfortunately.
Right. If you are between jobs, or if you have dedicated your life to managing a household and raising children, that question can induce a huge amount of anxiety.
People feel judged if they don't have a fancy corporate title to offer up.
But the phrases Chloe and Alex provide are so clean, unapologetic, and empowering. Things like, I am a stay-at-home mom, or I am a stay-at-home dad.
Or, I am looking for a new job at the moment.
Yes, it completely removes the stigma. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't over-explain. It just presents the reality clearly, which, as they note, is what people actually respect.
It entirely removes the need to invent a complicated defensive story to hide your current situation.
Exactly. Honesty delivered simply is incredibly disarming. When you say, I am looking for a new job at the moment, with a smile and steady eye contact, the other person doesn't judge you.
They usually lean in, right?
They do. They might ask what field you are in or if they can help. Vulnerability, when paired with simple language, builds trust far faster than corporate jargon ever could.
Okay, let's look at where we are on the mountain right now.
We're climbing.
We're making progress. We've mapped out the basics, name and location. We've navigated the professional plain English. dodging the jargon trap.
Safely navigated.
But right now, we still just have a somewhat sterile exchange of facts. Who you are, where you live, how you pay the bills.
It's very transactional.
It's extremely transactional. How do we transition from a polite exchange of data to an actual, warm, genuine human connection?
That is where we hit the third step.
Step 3, which focuses on hobbies, free time, and what I like to call the magic icebreakers.
This step is the turning point of the entire interaction. This is where the dynamic shifts from a transaction to a relationship.
I love that.
Step 3 is about revealing your passions and allowing the other person to see what actually brings you joy.
And the essential sentence structures for this, just like the previous steps, are beautifully straightforward.
In my free time, I like to.
Exactly. Or, I love and I'm a big fan of. The source uses some great relatable examples, too.
Alex mentions, in my free time, I love to cook Italian food, and I am a big fan of Marvel movies.
And Chloe talks about her love for photography, specifically taking her camera out on weekends and walking around the city capturing old buildings.
Notice how specific Chloe's example is there. She doesn't just say, I like art, or I like taking pictures.
Right, she paints a vivid picture.
Exactly. Walking around the city on weekends, capturing old buildings, that specificity is what gives the other person something to grasp onto.
It's a hook.
It is. If she just said art, the listener wouldn't know what to ask next. But old buildings in the city immediately prompts questions like, oh, what's your favorite neighborhood? Or do you prefer black and white or color?
Specificity is the fuel for follow-up questions.
Beautifully said.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then, right after discussing hobbies, they drop what I honestly think is the ultimate cheat code for human interaction.
Oh, this is the best part.
It is so brilliant in its simplicity. The pet cheat code.
It is incredibly effective. It might be the single most powerful tool in casual networking.
Chloe explains how talking about pets acts as this magic conversation starter. She gives the example of simply saying, I have a golden retriever dog named Max.
Just that simple sentence.
She claims that if you mention a pet, people universally respond with enthusiasm. Their faces change. They say things like, oh, I love dogs, or do you have pictures?
And suddenly, the conversation just flows effortlessly.
You aren't strangers anymore. You are two people looking at pictures of a golden retriever on a phone.
What's truly fascinating here is the deep sociological truth behind that claim. Why do pets work so well as icebreakers?
Yeah, why is that?
It's because animals entirely bypass our standard social defense mechanisms. We have to look at evolutionary psychology here.
Okay, let's get into it.
When we talk about our jobs, or even certain high-end hobbies like golf or wine tasting, there are often subtle elements of status signaling, competition, or judgment at play.
People are sizing each other up.
Exactly. The brain is calculating hierarchy. Is their job better than mine? Do they make more money?
So the guard is still up, the ego is still engaged.
Precisely. But when we talk about a golden retriever named Max, we are entering a zone of pure, uncomplicated empathy and affection.
It's universally relatable.
Evolutionary psychology suggests that humans bonded over shared affection for animals long before we bonded over corporate synergy.
That makes total sense.
Mentioning a pet signals to the other person's brain that you are a nurturing, safe individual. It strips away the status competition and replaces it with shared humanity.
It gives the other person permission to just drop their professional mask.
And just be a person who likes dogs.
It's a shared humanity moment. But I want to make an observation about something Chloe says in this section regarding hobbies and passions in general.
That's that.
She mentions that when you talk about what you love, whether it's cooking Italian food, photographing old buildings, or your dog, Max, your eyes light up.
Yes. The physical change.
So my question to you is it the actual hobby itself, the pasta or the architecture, that creates the connection? Or is it the energy and the enthusiasm behind the hobby that acts as an open door for the other person to walk through?
That is an incredibly perceptive distinction, and it gets right to the heart of why this four-step framework is so powerful.
Because enthusiasm is contagious, right?
Highly contagious. The text asserts that mentioning a hobby fundamentally changes the dynamic because it invites follow-up questions. But you are absolutely right to focus on the physical change, the eyes lighting up.
That's a real biological thing.
Mirror neurons in our brain physically cause us to reflect the emotional state of the person we are watching.
So if I am excited, your brain actually forces you to feel a little bit excited too.
Precisely. If you speak passionately about, say, collecting vintage postage stamps, the other person might not care at all about the history of the Postal Service.
They might find stamps incredibly boring.
They probably do, but they will be entirely captivated by your passion. They are connecting to the emotion of joy, not the object of the hobby.
They are connecting to the emotion, not the object. That is huge.
It is huge, and this proves a vital point for language learners and really anyone who struggles with social anxiety.
What's the takeaway there?
Knowing the simple vocabulary for your hobbies is infinitely more valuable for relationship building than memorizing advanced, obscure vocabulary about global economics or political theory.
Because your passion showcases your personality.
It shows that you have a soul, that you find joy in the world, and people ultimately connect with personality, not a dictionary.
That's such a great quote. People connect with personality, not a dictionary.
If you are listening to this right now and you're learning English, you need to mentally tattoo this on your wrist. Nobody falls in love with perfect grammar, but everyone is drawn to genuine enthusiasm.
Which is the absolutely perfect bridge to our final step. We spent all this time mapping out the exact words and sentence structures.
We have the plan.
We have the basics in step 1, the job in step 2, and the hobbies in step 3. But step 4 throws a massive curveball into the mix.
Because it isn't about vocabulary at all.
No, it's entirely about mindset, body language, and a very specific physical practice technique.
Up until now, we've been drafting the script, we've been choosing the words. Step 4 is about the delivery.
The performance.
It's about building the physical armor you need to actually deliver those words when the cortisol spikes and the adrenaline hits.
Chloe breaks down the physical symptoms of nervousness really well. When we are anxious, when we are standing at the bottom of that mountain staring up at, tell me about yourself, we almost universally do 3 things.
The classic trio of panic.
Exactly. We speak very, very fast, we look at the floor, and we completely forget to smile.
Again, we have to look at the evolutionary stress response here. Why do we do those specific 3 things?
Yeah. Why those 3?
When your brain perceives a social threat, it wants the interaction to be over as quickly as possible. So you speed up your speech to rush through the dangerous situation.
Get it over with.
Exactly. You avoid eye contact because in the animal kingdom, direct eye contact with a stranger can be interpreted as a challenge or an invitation to conflict.
So looking at the floor.
You are signaling submission and trying to become invisible.
Wow. And the smile?
Your facial muscles physically tense up, preparing for an attack, which completely erases your ability to smile naturally.
Your body is literally bracing for impact just because someone asked your name.
It's incredible, isn't it?
But Chloe counters this biological reaction by emphasizing that a warm smile and steady eye contact are the true universal language.
They override everything else.
She has this great quote addressing the learner directly. She says, "They aren't grading your English, they just want to connect with you."
It fundamentally shifts the paradigm from a performance to a connection.
Right.
If you are standing there and you make a grammar mistake, but you are smiling warmly and maintaining eye contact, the other person's brain registers you as friendly and safe.
Because of those mirror neurons we talked about earlier.
Exactly. The mirror neurons will cause them to smile back. We instinctively feel welcomed, regardless of whether a verb was misplaced in the sentence.
So the nonverbal communication entirely overrides the verbal mistakes.
Completely overrides it.
And this brings us to the core mission of our deep dive today. The actionable homework that Chloe and Alex prescribe.
The real work.
The strategy that brings all 4 of these steps together into a bulletproof social armor. The 15-minute mirror technique.
This is where the theoretical advice becomes a highly practical physiological exercise.
They advise creating your own introduction script.
Yeah.
Literally taking a piece of paper and writing down 3 or 4 simple sentences covering the steps we just discussed.
Just a basic outline.
Right. For example, "Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm from Canada. I work as a teacher and I love photography."
That's perfect.
And then they say you need to take that script and practice it in front of a mirror 20 times.
20 times.
Alex even shares a funny anecdote about how he used to practice his jokes in front of his bathroom mirror. He notes that even if his reflection didn't laugh, the sheer process of repetition gave him immense confidence.
It's a classic exposure therapy technique combined with motor skill acquisition.
And for you, the listener, we are framing this around a very specific, non-negotiable goal today. Draft your 4-step script and then dedicate exactly 15 minutes to reading it aloud.
While looking yourself in the eye in the mirror.
Yes, look at yourself and do it at a measured medium speed.
The medium speed is a critical component of this exercise. Do not rush through it.
But let me push back on this mechanical approach for a second, because I know people are going to have doubts about this.
Sure, go ahead.
If I sit in my bedroom alone and practice a 4-sentence script 20 times in a mirror for 15 minutes,
Yeah.
don't I run the huge risk of sounding like a pre-programmed robot when I finally meet a real human being? Won't I sound completely unnatural, stiff, and
Oh,
rehearsed?
it's a very valid concern. It feels counterintuitive to over-rehearse something that is supposed to be a natural, spontaneous social interaction.
Right.
But that concern actually misunderstands the deep psychology of practice and skill acquisition. The goal of this intense, repetitive practice isn't to make you sound robotic.
Then what is the goal?
The goal is to achieve a state of neurological automaticity.
Automaticity. Let's really unpack that. What exactly is happening in the brain when we achieve automaticity?
The best way to understand it is to think about when you first learned to drive a car.
Oh, man. I was terrified.
Remember that feeling? When you first sit behind the wheel, you have to consciously think about every single variable.
Yeah, the pressure of your foot on the pedal, checking the rearview mirror.
Turning the steering wheel, watching the speedometer, looking for pedestrians. It takes 100% of your cognitive load.
If someone tries to talk to you while you are parallel parking for the first time,
You have to tell them to shut up, because your brain cannot process language and the mechanics of the car at the same time.
right, you turn down the radio so you can see better, your brain is totally maxed out.
Exactly. But what happens after you have been driving for 5 years?
You don't even think about it.
You can drive all the way home from work, navigating traffic, while having a complex, emotionally deep conversation with the passenger in the seat next to you.
And when you pull into your driveway, you barely even remember the physical journey.
The physical act of driving has become automatic. It has moved from the conscious, effortful part of your brain into the basal ganglia, which handles habitual, automatic behaviors.
You don't have to consciously think about the mechanics of driving anymore.
Precisely. Now apply that to language.
Okay.
When you practice your simple introduction script 20 times for 15 minutes in the mirror, you are building physical muscle memory in your vocal cords, your tongue, and your lips.
Oh,
You are building robust neural pathways in your brain. You are taking the sequence of words, my name is, I am from, I work as, I enjoy, and you are making them so deeply automatic that they require almost zero cognitive load to produce.
ah. And when the words themselves no longer require massive amounts of cognitive load.
Your brain is suddenly freed up to focus entirely on the human elements of the interaction.
That makes total sense.
Because you aren't desperately searching your mental dictionary for the word manager or the translation for photography, you have the mental bandwidth available to actually look at the person.
You have the bandwidth to remember to smile naturally.
You can actually listen to the tone of their voice,
Mhm.
read their body language, and process their response instead of internally panicking about how to conjugate your next verb.
That is absolutely brilliant. It's a complete paradigm shift.
It changes everything.
It's not about memorizing a script so you can recite it blindly like a robot. It's about mastering the mechanics of the words so completely that you can afford to forget about them.
Allowing you to focus entirely on the living, breathing person standing in front of you.
And that is exactly why the 15 minutes of reading aloud at a medium speed is so utterly essential to this homework.
Critical.
Because, as we discussed, nervousness makes us speed up. Our biological instinct is to rush.
Get it over with as quickly as possible.
Right. If you practice at a fast pace in your bedroom, you will deliver it at an absolutely frantic, breathless pace in real life when the adrenaline hits.
And you're terrified.
Exactly. By forcing yourself to practice at a steady, deliberate medium speed for 15 minutes, you are actively training your nervous system to stay calm under pressure.
You are setting a physical, confident rhythm in your body.
A rhythm that will act as an anchor when the thermal anxiety tries to speed you up.
That's it exactly.
Okay, this has been an incredibly enlightening journey. We have completely dismantled the mountain. Let's take all of these pieces and look at how they stack together to build a complete, impenetrable social armor.
A quick recap. It starts with the foundation. Step 1, the basics. Giving your hijacked brain a lifeline by stating your name and your location.
Keeping it simple, adding a tiny narrative timeline.
And remembering that if you drop your metaphorical groceries, you just hit the reset button with a simple sentence.
Which sets the stage for step 2. What you do, the context.
Avoiding the alienating jargon trap at all costs.
Understanding that simple language doesn't make you sound basic. It creates cognitive ease that makes you instantly more likable and approachable.
And that comfort allows you to transition into step 3, your passion, your hobbies, your free time, or the ultimate cheat code, your pets.
This is where you bypass status competition and let your authentic enthusiasm shine.
Opening the door for genuine, shared human connection.
And wrapping it all together is step 4, your energy in delivery, overriding the biological urge to rush and hide.
And instead, using a smile and eye contact as your primary language, powered by the automaticity you built through practice.
Which leads us directly to your mission for today.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this, we want you to execute this strategy.
Yes, please do not just listen to this advice and forget it.
Take out a piece of paper right now and write out those 4 simple sentences using the core vocabulary we discussed.
Write it out, keep it simple.
Then go stand in front of a mirror. Look yourself in the eye. Set a timer on your phone for exactly 15 minutes.
And practice reading your script aloud at a steady, deliberate, medium pace.
Do it until the words flow effortlessly, until the automaticity kicks in and you can comfortably smile at your own reflection while you say them.
It is a 15-minute investment of time that pays massive, lifelong dividends in unshakable speaking confidence.
It transforms a terrifying trapdoor into a welcoming open door.
It really does.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. It builds on the core philosophy we uncovered today.
What's the thought?
Well, if we accept the truth that a warm smile, simple honesty, and genuine enthusiasm matters so much more to people than perfect grammar and complex, high-status vocabulary.
Which they do.
What other stressful, rigid rules of language learning are we holding on to that we should simply let go of?
That's a great question.
What other imaginary mountains are we forcing ourselves to climb just because we are afraid of looking foolish?
It's a question that challenges not just how we learn English, but the entire way we approach human communication and vulnerability.
It really does. So the next time you step into a room and someone looks at you and says, "Tell me about yourself," you don't have to be the deer caught in the headlights anymore.
Not at all.
You know exactly what is happening in your brain. You have the map, you have the 4 simple steps, and you have the automaticity from your practice.
Step out of the headlights.
Lower your shoulders, smile warmly, and just start with step 1.